Section of Arlington County. I'm going to hand it over to Marco for the rules of.
Great, thank you, everyone. Welcome again to the June 2026 PRC meeting. My name is Marco Rivero, and I'm the staff liaison to the Park and Recreation Commission. This meeting is being recorded for our public records and will be posted on the Arlington County Commission's YouTube page. We suggest that you please avoid sharing any personal information that you would not like to be made public. We ask that presenters and attendees please mute your microphones if you are not speaking. During virtual only or hybrid meetings, commissioners joining virtually and who are eligible to vote must have their cameras on for the duration of the meeting for purposes of meeting quorum. For those attending via telephone, you can mute and unmute your microphones by dialing *6. The chat box will be monitored to address any technical or procedural questions during the meeting, but should not be used for meeting discussion. Commissioners should use the raise your hand function on the top toolbar to be recognized during commission discussion as well. Assigned presenters may share their screens using the share content box above. As way of information, we'll be holding a public comment period. In order to be recognized, please use the raise your hand function, and each public commenter will have up to 3 minutes public comment. Staff will signal to the speaker once the time is up. During the public comment period and during agenda item discussions amongst the PRC, the chair will recognize virtual participation first, then in-person attendees will be able to comment. Thank you very much, and I will turn it back over to Joe.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Is there any comment? Hearing none, let's move to a vote. All in favor, say or indicate aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Marco, for taking wonderful minutes as always. Now it's time for public comment. We have one public commenter.
And our first and only public commenter, I think, for the evening is Anita Walgren.
Thank you. Welcome, Anita. You have 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm really delighted to meet everybody on the Parks and Rec Commission. I'm interested in 2 possibilities that could happen for public space and parks in my neighborhood, Virginia Square. The first is the completion of what is called the 9th Street Walkway or 9th Street Greenway, depending on what plan you look back at. 1984, it was contemplated. I'm going to just hand that around. This shows the portion from Quincy to Jackson. And the part I'm really interested in, it is actually a walkway if you've ever taken it from Glebe all the way pretty clearly through to Lincoln. And then there is another portion that is between 2 buildings that are residents. And then it goes to a walkway next to the studio, the art studios behind 3409 Wilson Boulevard. And the block that is now available, in my opinion, and opportunity-wise, we should just be aware of, will be between Kenmore and Jackson. This is the Jiffy Lube, the Detour, the Darna, and the urgent care on the corner. I'd like to see the parcel that's been acquired by George Mason University, which includes the office building at 3300 Fairfax and 933 Kenmore. That's going to be jointly combined. If they would just build a sidewalk on the south portion of the George Mason parcel, then we'd have a complete walkway all the way through to Jackson. And so you can pass that around and visualize it with me. The second topic I'm also interested in, handily enough, is across the intersection. And it is contemplated in the 2022 Clarendon Sector Plan that was just thought about. And this is Triangle Park, which could extend as far from here. This is private property owned by C&G Auto. It appears to be not in current use. Maybe an opportunity for the county to acquire that property by some affordable means. Meanwhile, the county owns 3282 and 3290. So if they had completed the acquisition of all that parcel, it would give what they need for a triangle park on the intersection of 10th, Fairfax, and Kirkwood Road. And that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Anita. I appreciate it. And we will circulate to the commissioners your letter and the diagram that you just passed around. Commissioners, we're not at liberty to discuss this at this time, but we can bring it up in another meeting in the future if we put it on the public notice agenda.
Good. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do see other folks online. Are there any other public commenters who did not previously sign up? All right, hearing none. Move to the next topic.
Okay, and welcome commissioners. I see Erica and Hamilton join. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have Eric Beach for the capital improvement plan presentation and discussion.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Marco will pull up the presentation. For folks that I have not met before, Eric Beach, I'm the Park Development Division Chief for the Department of Parks and Recreation. You know Marco well, he's one of our staff members. We do the sort of long-term planning, design, construction. So you see my folks involved with the site plans and the public spaces master plan and FNRP. And then we get down into, the projects that we construct that you see that we've worked on over the years. So thank you for having me tonight. I will try to move briskly through this. It's a fairly long presentation. It's a little bit more streamlined. You guys are top of the iceberg because the county manager is also presenting his CIP right now. So on a technicality, we were able to come here tonight because it is technically public now. So we're here.
Thank you.
Well, hopefully it'll give you time to, respond in the process. And so I'll lay that out in a moment. I will ask Marco if you could just keep me on track because my evening's not done. I have to go do a light test at the Walter Reed Community Center because we're getting close to opening that facility and we have the lights going on tonight. We have to meet with the contractor, make sure everything's pointing in the right direction, if you will. So just real quick before I go, because I realize I don't have my presentation because this is a streamlined presentation of what we will present to the county board in an upcoming meeting. But just to note that on June 2nd at noon, between noon and 4, we are doing our Department of Parks and Recreation work session with the county board. We don't know where we are in the order yet. There are two other departments going with us. And so at some point in there, we'll have an hour and a half to go through our presentation. I'll let Marco know so he can share like 2 or 3. So that way people don't have to wait through the whole thing.
The advisory commissions are not on that same
I
day.
don't know. I don't believe they're doing commissions that day. There is on July 9th at 4 p.m. There is a work session for commissions. And so one thing I will confirm is if they're looking for any commission testimony that evening, they change that kind of each time they do it. So we can get that confirmed, Jill, if that's helpful. So what is the CIP? CIP is our capital investment plan. This is a plan that the county adopts biannually. It lays out our 10-year plan for investment into our maintenance, renovation, and potentially new projects. And so it's a little bit different. It's a little bit confused with the annual operating budget because there is a part of that called PAYGO, which does our capital maintenance, and some of our smaller projects are part of that. So we'll see some design funded for things like the renovation of Monroe Park. It's strange because the design is funded there, but then the bond is funded in the CIP, so it all blends together, but there is a little bit of separation. These are generally our larger projects, our long-term investment. It's based on a number of things I'll talk about. So if you go, Marco. So when we set to look at the CIP is DPR's portion. This is, I think, $1 billion plan over 10 years for all of the departments. And basically the investment we're doing here is balanced with investment in fire, roads, infrastructure, Arlington water pollution control plant. So this is sort of a balance of all the needs and trying to fit it in to the 10-year plan in order to maintain the county's debt service requirements, which is not more than 11% per year can be paid to our debt service. And so all this has to fit in that scope of the regular operating budget. So I only say that because it's a balance. Not everything we want maybe here, but hopefully this is a good chunk of keeping our system in good repair and investing a little bit new life into some of our projects. So when we look at it, we look at basically a couple different ways when we approach CIP. We want to continue the existing projects that we've already started through various funding means, but have more funding to come. And so some of these are things we start design on. Now we need to do the funding for construction. I say that because there's a real focus this year on sort of existing projects and keep up of our existing inventory of amenities facilities. This is a tough budget year for the CIP, just like it was with the operating budget. That pressure on the operating budget does translate into the capital investment program because there is not that necessarily the capacity to maintain that debt service and things like that. So there is a pressure here. The county is looking to tighten its waistband, if you will, and streamline a little bit. I think in the end, we came out very well in what's being proposed. If you're asking just for a Parks and Rec opinion on that, I think we came out very well. We were able to kind of protect our core things and keep things moving. So we look at our existing projects and commitments. We want to keep up that state of good repair. So that means investing in what you have necessarily before you do new. Adherence to our public spaces master plan. Obviously, we have goals there. We also have goals in this section, probably should be updated to the public space master plan and the forestry natural resources plan now. But it is to keep up adherence to the goals and vision laid out there. Then we look at equity of distribute projects. We have a couple near-term projects. Just a real quick note: Boathouse, Crystal Lake Parks, public space, Drew Park, and Gateway are kind of the major things you'll see early. And it's just a little bit of a note here to talk about that. Next slide. I won't spend a lot of time. I think everybody here knows. We have 147 parks, 942 acres, but it is helpful to sit back a little bit. We have thousands of things that we're maintaining in our system, right? We have, there's 43 diamond fields, 54 miles of trails. We have 25 restroom buildings across the system, like almost 50 picnic shelters. And then we have thousands of picnic tables, benches, grills, kiosks, drinking fountains, and things like that. And they all require replacement or upkeep over various ports of time. So this is a little bit of give you a big picture of what's happening there. How we manage all of that infrastructure. We have several ways we do that are sort of more formula based, based on other prevailing sort of approach to the way you manage these tools. These assets. We first use an asset management tool. So basically, we go out, we do an assessment of all our equipment in the park system, every single thing in all those 147 parks, and we look at what its condition is. It gets a score. It tells us how much remaining useful life it has on it and helps us program what we need to invest in. Static fields, we have things that we do impact tests, basically that tests to test where you drop a bowling ball essentially for a certain height and how high it bounces represents how high a child's head would bounce off that field. And you have certain safety standards for that you have to maintain. And so that's how we know when our fields are getting need for replacement. We have sort of a technical side that we do that as well, other than just it's ripped or it's deteriorating, things like that. So those are combined to go into our 10-year plan. The trails, we have a pavement condition index, same as what people do on the roads. We have a tiny little, we don't have it. We contract a tiny little truck goes around. It has lasers and cameras and it goes through and assess all the trails. Signs it a condition rating, basically somewhere from 0 to 100. I'll go into a little bit more of that later. We do that every 4 to 5 years. And the same with the bridges. We bring in outside engineers that go and assess all of our pedestrian bridges and fords, which are the low water fords that go down into the stream to see their condition and their safety aspects of that. So that is kind of how we build the CIP. Really quickly, based on all this stuff we've talked about, since 2022, we've invested almost $62 million into our parks and maintenance capital program. We've got, almost $20 million invested in our synthetic field replacements, almost $6 million into our trail and bridge. And then with our trails and bridges, we have many of those in design and construction. I'm going quick here because I have a slide on that later, but I'll be able to expand on that a little bit. Next slide, Mark. Taking a little bit of time, I talked about that condition assessment rating that we do. We study the physical condition of our equipment and amenities in the parks. Several years ago, we introduced an equity factor to that. And what that means is that we take that condition, physical condition of facilities, square on 0 to 100. We then do an equity factor and we do an analysis for every zip code in Arlington. Looks at the ethnic diversity, household density, number of children, the lowest average income. We put that together so that way we're basically investing in the parks that are in the poorest conditions and the most needful or the priority areas of the county. So that is also scored on 0 to 100. We put that together and combine for one asset management number to help us decide what comes next. Talk a little bit here. Our master plans and how we try to gain feedback from all kinds of different folks that may or may not be involved in different things we do. But I think a lot of folks are familiar because you attended those things for us. Next slide, Marco. This is a terrible slide. It's actually not meant to be read. It's not meant to be read, but I think what we're trying to convey here. These are 147 parks, and the first column is the names. The second column is our condition of the equipment. So one you might be able to see. The one on top has 100 because it's a brand new park, not Mercer Road. It's I can't quite even read it from here. It is Buzzard
It's
Road.
hard to avert.
So it has the condition is in good condition, and then the priority for the neighborhood index is a little bit higher, so it has a score of 176. So that is sort of the top, for example, the top park as far as not needing investment, if you will. It's kind of awkward to say that. All the way down to the other side, which is really hard to see, where you're starting to get a scores where parks have 30s and 34s and 40 out of 100. So what I can say is, if you look at the right-hand column, the bottom 25, we've almost checked almost all those off since we did this 4 years ago. And so we have investment into all of these things and really done that. So we are moving up the list. Now, it's not just check the next one off, because there is some art to this, because you have to look at where things are getting high use, where having quicker deterioration in other locations. Also, something on a way higher up on the list could have a failure of, like, a playground falling down. That happens, something like that. So those will shift our priority. But just this is a sense to help people get a sense of how we approach the CIP and why we're doing. We're not just picking things out of our hat, if you will, as we're doing this. So.
If I may, the one at the very bottom, it says Bicentennial Garden. I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
I used to carry my list where all those are. Bicentennial Garden is a small area. So some of these, that's also the difference with some of these parks. Like, for example, Gateway, for example, or Quincy's on here, which is a massive 30-acre park. Bicentennial Gardens could just be maybe a subset of another park that has an independent name convention. Mark, you might check on that one. So some of these also may just there's nothing in that park, so it just may need a kiosk to be fixed, and that will make your score go way up. Other ones have lots of resources or amenities in them that, it's hard. You can't just fix a kiosk and the score goes up, because you've got fields and playgrounds and things in it. So it is really bothering me that I can't think of Bicentennial.
It is also known as Constitution Garden Park. It's 0.2 acres, celebrating the bicentennial of the signing of the Constitution. It is located at 4855 Wilson Boulevard.
No, it's one of those median. Yes. Okay.
Gotcha.
Yep. So yeah, we have a variety of the things in our inventory. Mark, if you would. So as far as the CIP, our overall CIP is basically broken down into 5 categories. We have a park master plan category where you see things like Gateway and Boathouse and Drew Park and things like this. Parks maintenance capital is our sort of yearly expenditure on doing programs like renovating Monroe Park or Douglas Park Phase 1 or Douglas Park Phase 2. Synthetic field program is managing those fields that we have. Land acquisition is our location where we have funds so we can go out and acquire land to add to the system and meet our 30 acres over 10 years that the PSMP calls for. And then we have our trail and bridge modernization program. Way that's broken down, those things are funded through various sources. Obviously, the largest is the bond issue that the county does. But we have, there's other tools like short-term finance, which is kind of like a lease lend kind of thing. It's not really that, but it gets lumped into that kind of category. It's short-term financing with a quick payback. But one of the things I like to point out in our total composition of funding, we have fairly large amount, almost 20-something million dollars of outside sources. So developer contributions are about $14 million of our budget. We have about $10 million in partnerships like with Marymount and GW. Kenmore, we have raised $2 million with outside user groups. And then we have federal funding, $1.8 million is a grant that we received for Douglas Park Phase 2. And so we have a fairly heavy source of outside funding. This was not just on the county's back primarily, but there is a good chunk of that in there.
And so the Boeing contributions, for instance, for the pool, would it become under developer contributions?
So this is only funding that is able to offset projects that are in this CIP. The Boeing funding was 2019, so it's already come in and been accounted for and gone. But yes, if next year we went out and say sold the name for something else there, that would be part of a developer contribution that could be offset it. But the Boeing one is sort of, it'd be nice to put it there, but it's not. Yep. Okay, next, Margo. Real quick, some of the things we've done in the last 2 years since the last CIP, we were able to open Arlington Junction Park. We've replaced synthetic fields in a couple locations. Our trail paving program and the Walter Reed community pickleball courts are getting ready to open up here.
Oh, good.
Friday night, I believe. So just real quick about what the CIP is, these are the requests that you will see if you were to go through the CIP. The Parks Maintenance Capital there's $350,000 in there to do our inspection that I was talking about. We do have to hire somebody to come in and do that work. That's time, it's labor. Equipment and facilities, there's $100,000 ask in there. That replaces our treadmills, our bikes, our yoga mats, all that kind of stuff at our indoor buildings. And so that is funded through the CIP. Our feasibility studies implementation, it's a little bit of an odd one, but the best way I can explain it is this is essentially planning and study money that has been made available to us because there are a lot of outside actions that come to the Parks Board and say, hey, what are you going to do with it now? So what I mean by that is, for example, I can use the Virginia Hospital Center site. So the Virginia Hospital Center site may be approved through a site plan, and the community will most likely already come in and say, okay, what are you going to do to plan the rest of it? And normally we'd say, well, we have to get in the CIP and put it in 2-3 years now, we'll be ready to go. This provides us funding to be able to react to some of those sort of things that are put towards us. Happens with APS, happens with other site plan buildings that are approved. And so this is a way for us to be able to react to that need, if you will, rather than having to wait through the program down CIP. Next slide, working. Pool park projects is something that's relatively new for the last 3 PAGO cycles. These are monies that are for projects that are pooled together because they are slightly too big for regular operating budget, but not full CIP projects on their own. So what I mean by that, this year is used to refresh a chunk of our restrooms across the county. And when I mean refresh, we have buildings that have good infrastructure, good bones, good roofs, things like that. We just need to get in and tile, new sinks, new toilet, that kind of thing, because they take a heavy abuse in their life. So this will allow us to get to 5 or 6, 7 of those and go in and do those refresh internally. Douglas Park Phase 2 is the construction funding for this renovation of the playground side of Douglas Park. This one also has the $1.8 million federal grant tied to it. So of that, $1.8 million is funded federally out of our $2.4 million. Slide.
Where do you get, what's the federal money from?
It's they were earmarks that Mr. Carson Byer was able to acquire for us. We had one there. We also have one at Doctors Park. There's smaller, $350,000, but that one's allowing us to add lights to the volleyball court, for example. So, and we have several. We had another one at Bluemont Junction Park. So, okay. Yeah. Parks maintenance. This is our program. You know, our trying to keep up ahead of our upkeep so things don't deteriorate and then eventually cost us more money down the line. Glebe Road Park will be the next one in our queue. This is for design of Glebe Road Park. Folks have been up there. That is a very awkward ADA accessibility issues with steps and moving around, and the courts really need to be refreshed and the wall has issues. So this will get us started on that road. Gunston Park restroom is a little bit different than the last restroom batch I was talking about. This is a full tear down and rebuild. That was supposed to be a temporary building that was attached to a
It's very awkward.
blow up bubble. It's very awkward. And so we do need to start fresh. People will look at that and say $1 million for a park restroom. This actually, we are using something now that we're moving along. We're using prefabricated restrooms by a manufacturer. They still add up to $100,000. It's $300,000 to purchase it. It's $250,000 for installation. There's $100,000 utilities. There's permits. By the time you're done, it's $1 million. If we started this and do how we used to do this with hire an architect, design a bathroom, and then bid and construct it, we'd probably be around $1.5 million. So this is a way we have been trying to reduce it, but it is a sizable chunk of money. So we're moving now to our park master plan category. I think folks are very familiar. This is our Gateway Park funding. This is for we have been funded for design based on the master plan that was adopted a year ago. We're moving into design. This will be the construction. This $29 million is the total project cost. There is $13 million in developer, I think more like $18 million in developer funding that supports that. I think the county's bond is more like $9 million or like $10 million when we're done. But that is one of the projects included. Drew Park, we are currently out doing a master planning process with the community. This will fund the design and construction of that master plan that we hope to adopt in the fall here. Metro Market Square is near and dear to Marco's heart because he's running the master planning process. So he's already started engaging with the community there. This will fund the design and the construction of Metro Market Park in Crystal City. Penrose Square, this is one slight change to the last CIP. This was included in the last CIP, but it was a year or two farther out. There is now an approved building that came through the form-based code here. And so the lot next to Penrose Park, the CVS will be turned over to the county as part of that. This is to fill in the park and expand it. The original master plan for the park was actually this parcel and the one next to it. That sculpture actually installed incorrectly. You're supposed to be able to stand next to it and whisper and hear somebody saying on the other side. It's supposed to be double the distance, but we didn't have the rest of the property, so it's part of the adjustment that will be made. But that's hopefully a good thing.
They're gonna move it?
At least one part, probably the one on the left. Yeah.
All right.
Yep. Arlington Boathouse. This is something. This is a very long gestating project, if you will. And so we have been moving forward a bit. We're doing a lot of work with the National Park Service. We're saw some information today. We're just about ready to sign a letter of intent with the Arlington Boathouse Foundation on some work we'll do for fundraising with those folks. And this is the construction funding. Mainly the one that's probably the important one is 28, 29. It's $9 million each year for about, $7.5 million each year for around $16 million, $15.5 million, excuse me. 34 is the second phase of the boathouse, which is the upper site. And so that is the same place it was in the last CIP. All the funding is the same in the boathouse. It's just shifted a little bit on the year. Okay. Synthetic turf program. This is our replacement at Longbridge Field 1. Longbridge Field 1 is our Marymount partnership, so there's a 50-50 cost share there. Longbridge Field 4 is a entirely county-owned field, but both I dating myself because I was involved in the planning design of this stuff, and I think this is our third replacement of this field, so it's a little scary. But we are getting ready to renovate those fields. Gunston Rectangle and Gunston Diamond are also up in our queue, and so both of these synthetic turfs will be replaced. These, if you notice, are set for FY28 to coincide with our restroom improvement. These happen to be in alphabetical order, so the restroom came as part of the master plan program. That way we can try to pick up some cost savings on delivering them all at the same time, a little less disruption to the community, and do those renovations there. Out year, I'll touch real quick on these because these are starting to get farther out. There'll be 2 or 3 more CIPs adopted, if you will, before they actually come into play. Our master plan design and construction for Quincy Park is still in the CIP for FY30 and 34. Shortbridge Park is still in the CIP. That's down at the end of Crystal City, not Potomac Yards, but I forget what it's called. It's at the corner of Route 1 and Glebe Road down there. Courthouse sector plan is money we've aggregated from developer funding. So thank you folks who've been involved in those site plan projects that have been able to acquire funding for us. This is actually not funded via the CIP, but it's here as a project line. It's for improvements to the parking lot in the area around this building. Shirlington Park is part of the 4 Mile 1 master plan that was adopted. I don't even remember.
2016.
2016, thank you. And this was a commitment we were able to advance J18 and complete it. Shirlington Park was a commitment to the community down there that we would come in there next. And so this remains in the CIP. Fairfax Drive Public Spaces is an outgrowth of the Clarendon sector plan update that was done 2 or 3 years ago. This is actually relative to the speaker earlier tonight. This is to convert Fairfax Drive. I don't know if it's named Fairfax Drive, but this is the angled parking spaces between the coffee shop and St. Charles Church at the corner of Triangle Park. Convert that to a park space. So that was put in the last CIP. It's remained the same. It might be a little bit of tweak because there may be some escalation, but it's basically the same number in the same years.
But that doesn't include creating Triangle Park though.
So it would include the ability to develop it out, but it's not acquisition funding for that. That would come probably from our acquisition funds that we'll talk about.
But it does include design and
I
construction.
believe that was all calculated to the square foot cost there. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't hold me to that to 100%, but I'm pretty sure when we looked at we do a calculation, we have a formula that we use for calculation. I think that square foot was included.
Okay.
Crystal City Parks and Public Space. This is a slight change for what you may have seen. We already talked about Metro Market Square, which is funded in our master plan. Crystal City Parks and Public Spaces were funded in our last time. This is funded from the TIF, which is the Tax Increment Finance District that Crystal City is subject to. So taxes to the development aggregate money to the county, and then they do road and parks projects. This is changed to $1 million in FY33 for planning design, and in FY34, 35 is going to be for $5 million for construction. However, it's been recentered to be for spaces that are potentially acquired by the county, either by acquisition or private development, i.e. easements, or potentially for Center Park. This has changed slightly because one of the problems we have at Crystal City, county doesn't really own a lot of land in Crystal City. We're really subject to the development community and its timelines. So until we can get an easement, we can't invest money, and it's really hard to carry money for something we don't have yet. And so this has been kind of slid out a bit in the TIF out to FY 33 and 35 in order to make the CIP work, give the pressures that we have, and also sort of the reality of our ability to spend the money. And so it's a placeholder, so we can do it when it happens, but we just don't have a clear path for it happening right now. Langston Boulevard Public Space, this is just a placeholder money out in FY 34. This was based on, I think, last year's adoption of Langston Boulevard plan. And there's some public space called for in there. So in the board following up on the momentum from that, placed $2 million in just for unidentified space. There are a couple of spaces identified in that plan. Again, those are attached to surrounding development. So if one of those were to come online, we will have a placeholder for funding to go ahead and do that development. Virginia Highlands and nearby public spaces. This is master plan and design for refresh of Virginia Highlands. There's two other small locations, 20th Street and Ives, and the former Dominion substation. So we master plan all three together, get the investment there.
Does this include anything about River House parcels?
No. This would just be Virginia Highlands. It did the master plan design was anticipated to account for the inclusion of the former Grace Hopper Murray Park, because part of River House, the ultimate build out was attached that there. The construction funding may not include addressing that in a major way, but it could bind the spaces together. But it's not for any property on River House. That's something. New park in 26 Old Dominion. This is the Salt Dome. I think there's been a lot of conversation in the community over that years, and so the last CIP, we were asked to carry some money to develop a potential acre park there. That has not quite resolved itself into a plan yet, sort of a path forward yet with that. But the CIP is carrying money in 34, 36 to do so if that were to develop. And Barcroft Park is one of the two new things in the CIP. We're going to get to the other new one in a moment. Barcroft Park is the diamond baseball field and sort of natural area we have down in South Arlington. This is stating myself, but when I started 27 years ago, this was one of the first projects that the county was working on, and so it's coming up to almost 30 years, and it really needs a refresh. So this would replace the turf fields and irrigation, cracked concrete, bullpens, and other things that are dugouts that are really starting to wear out there. So this is some money for a refresh. This is not a redesign or a rebuild of that. It is simply to invest in improving the existing facility.
So it's not replacing the field, but around the field.
Well, so in this case, it does include new turf, new sod, and irrigation systems for those fields. So it would replace the actual diamond fields there. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have programs within programs, but the three programs that reside within the master plan section is emerging uses program. This was a program along with our natural resiliency that was done one CIP, 2 CIPs ago. Emerging uses allows us to react to new trends and things that are coming up that we also have a pressure, like pickleball at the time. Generally, when you do a CIP, you say, okay, we have this new need, and then we say, okay, it's in the CIP in year 10, and it takes a year for design and a year for construction. So 13 years now we can deal with the new trend that we have right now. So this is a way to fund a little bit of money to be able to address some of those needs. And so, for example, that's how we were able to accommodate the Baltimore pickleball facility was through the emerging needs. This is placeholder money to do that again. We have some things that we know are in the offing. Mountain biking, we're having a conversation around the natural trails study that we'd like to get out to the public in the fall here, or maybe sooner, but in the fall. Skateboarding is kind of a little bit older trend. It's not really a trend anymore, but it's trying to illustrative purposes. Mountain biking, there's some pump track kind of things, other things like this that we just not entirely sure where the community want to go, but if there becomes a big demand, it allows us to be flexible and deal with it. Natural resiliency, previously it was called the Natural Resiliency Fund. We have changed this to the Natural Resiliency and Habitat Restoration Program. I will say it's in no small part to some of the lobbying from Park and Rec Commission and FNRC. I don't know if it's lobbying, but it's or advocacy. It's technical encouragement. So what we've done with the Natural Resiliency Fund is turned to a Natural Resiliency and Habitat Restoration Program, meaning that we have reserved a bit of money for our natural resiliency piece, which is our stream bank restoration and our other kind of flood resiliency projects, things like that. But we've changed this to become, instead of an every other year funded program at like $1 million or whatever that number was every other year, we are funding this at about $700,000 every year. And what that will allow us to do is about 300 and, no, sorry, gotta get my number right. I have it right here. I just want to make sure because you guys will definitely want to know the number. Let's see. So we're looking at about $385,000 a year being added to this in a yearly program to create a habitat restoration program, which is essentially a invasive species management program and habitat restoration. We are looking at it like that because it's one thing to pull the invasives, but then you have invasives out of there. How do we restore that habitat so they don't come back? And so that is tree plantings and deer management. There's a bigger sort of approach that you need to do to these things once you've got them cleaned up. And so this will bring a staff member to add to the team to be able to create this habitat restoration program, a source of funding for them every year on top. This is on top. I have to say this is also on top of the base 100,000 invasive, yep, an operating budget. It's on top of the one time that they have this year. Yeah.
Are they gonna continue? We don't know.
Well, that's a yearly thing. So I don't know
Is the deer management getting folded into this, or is that gonna stay?
No, I think it's more from an operational standpoint
Okay.
because they're so related,
Okay.
but not from a funding piece of this. This is intended.
Okay,
Now, I can't say we couldn't have the opportunity to fund some of that out of here because it's not limited, but as of now, that's not the vision. That's not the vision for this right now. And so this will allow the forestry, our natural resource, Parks and Natural Resources folks to get to 90 additional acres in the very short term over the 100,000, basically in the full 500 acres of the county by the end of 2033, to go through a series of parks to spread way beyond what they're doing now in invasive management and this habitat restoration. So,
amen and hallelujah. Thank you.
yes, it's not quite the ask I think that folks were looking for, but it actually ends up being more when you think about it, because the natural resiliency program was 4.6 million. So the program itself is expanded over almost $2.5 million over the 10 years. And that's,
It looks like it's maybe combined with other things that don't have to do with habitat, for instance.
oh, it definitely is, because at the same time, while we were funding that 385 a year, we're also funding 250 a year on the natural resiliency side. And that is the stormwater restoration projects and things like that. So what you'll see in the CIP is basically a request line of 635,000 for 27, 655 for 28, 675 for 2029. But 250 of that is still sort of separate from the invasive and habitat restoration. What we did is we reduced our natural resiliency overall ask to that part of it, not the invasive habitat restoration, down to 500,000. We split that on a yearly basis. So it is doing all of that now, if you will.
And then the staff person, is that coming out of capital?
It will be coming in the capital. Yeah. Yeah. At some point, there will most likely be a conversion to the operating side, but if that would have to wait till at least next year. And so if you have an influx of money, you've got to be able to start managing it, because one of the bad side about the CIP is that if that money is not spent by the time you come back to the next CIP, they will not likely give you any more.
No.
So, so that is why that's why the staff is baked into that number. So,
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that one? We can always come
I
back.
can question you all night, but I know you have other things.
Yeah. So, okay, next slide, Margo. Okay, excuse me. So we also have a trail and pedestrian bridge program that is about $15 million for over the tenure of the CIP. And that is replacing our trails, our bridges. We'll a little bit more on this in a minute. So I'm going to hold synthetic turf replacement. That is managing our fields over that 10 years. I'll show you a little bit more in a second. And land acquisition is something that was reduced last CIP, has been kind of brought back up to funding, which we're happy about. It's $15 million every other year for the length of the CIP. So trail and bridge program, just to give you a little more in depth on what this does. I'll kind of start on the right. Our trails, we do that as PCI assessment. Our goal was to basically be able to repave 1 to 2 miles of trails every year until we bring our pavement condition index to 86. Our current index is 81. So that's out of 100. So we have no poor sections. I think we have very few fair sections. We're mostly in the good and excellent, but we are trying to hit this 86 number. And so the trail money is invested there. And then also the bridge design. Bridges tend to be really expensive. And so for example, right now we've got 2 in Douglas Park under design. We've got 4 under construction. One, and we have a low water ford that's in design, and one that's under well, it's not quite construction yet, but it's getting there. And then you can see 28. We've got other ones that are going to be designed construction moving forward. Just like I talked about this earlier, we do that trail pavement every 4 to 5 years, bridge inspection 6 to 8, and then we have a VDOT commitment on that gateway we have to do every 2 years. That's all funded out of this program. Next slide. 10-year turf program. So you can see we talked about Long Bridge 1, Long Bridge 4, Gunston Park, Gunston Diamond. And so this just makes it very clear. So in the next CIP, you'll see Virginia Highlands and you'll see Thomas Jefferson. So folks can know where we're going with this program. Next slide. Parks land acquisition. This was the last program on the financial slide we talked about. We have a 10-year goal to acquire 30 acres to add to the county system since the plan was adopted in 2019. County has been able to acquire through outright purchase 15 change acres. And then the other part is our acquisition program is our public access easements for when, site plans come in, they dedicate a space, or we have some easements in some locations. Can't quite see it on the bottom, but that is 9 acres. And so we have acquired about 24.5 acres out of the 30 over the 10 years, our 10-year goal. So we are well ahead. The only thing we had a conversation this morning, have to caveat that most of the very large properties in the county are probably gone. So the last 5 acres is going to take a whole lot of little ones to add up to the last 5. But I always say that because we've done so well since 2019. I worry that our progress may not look as good for the last 5 years.
Are the properties that were purchased for overland water relief?
They are
included?
They are not part of our count right now.
Okay.
Because they were not purchased with park bond or
Okay.
for the specific intent of park use. Now, I know those could potentially be used for park use, but they were DES through the stormwater program. It is one of the things in the public spaces master plan we are trying to tackle in our inventory. So we will actually have a conversation at that group at some point about how to count them. And so we are working right now getting the acreage location and have some suggestions how to wrap that up. But this is new acquisitions but it does not include those.
Is there more acquisition of those in the works? Or maybe you don't know.
I don't know. I think they have a list of properties that if they were to be available, would go for. Which one specifically and how many, that I don't know.
And Melissa asked.
Oh, sorry, clarifying. When you say reduces the park acreage, it sounds like a bad thing. Am I misunderstanding? Oh, sorry. I'm reading the second column down.
So we do. We just try to be a very transparent in the way we convey our numbers. And so the reduction in park acreage was the exchange at the Reeves farmland. So we had bought that full 3 or 4 acres that were up there in the exchange with Habitat for Humanity and Large, who's rebuilding that and going to put in the facility there. They acquired that 0.32 acres from us. So technically it is a reduction from our total park acreage number. So we just try to be very transparent because there are decisions that are made that impact that bottom number.
I have a question for the second phase of the boathouse. Is that land owned by Arlington County or by VDOT? Is it on the list?
So the second phase, which is the upper site, is owned by the county. It's been there for a long time. These are just purchases since the adoption of the public space master in 2019. There's a whole host of properties that would have been before this, and that would have been in that list. Yeah, this is mostly just based to reflect that goal of the 30 acres in 10 years. So, but yep, that's also
an easement according to the public space investment count as acquisition.
It does. Yep. And so the PSMB has very specific language about easements and fee simple as adding to the same thing, and it's kind of a reflection of Arlington and the cost of real estate and how our market works here.
And what's the part of Gateway Park that's?
So Gateway Park, believe it or not, was not owned or have an easement to be used by the county up until 2 years ago, I think. So it was built by VDOT and the county was maintaining it, but there was no agreement for the county to do that, which also meant VDOT could have came and closed it at any point. So after about 10 years of negotiation, we actually were signed an easement lease with them for Gateway Park. So it was be added as a land addition for us, because before that, it could simply go away by VDOT coming back and saying, hey, we don't want you to do this anymore.
Okay.
There are some other things like that. I can tell you there's one in Jenny Dean Park. Well, not the purchase one, but there's another one in Jenny Dean. Most folks wouldn't know this, but a huge chunk of Jenny Dean at one point was owned by VDOT up until a couple years ago. And so we worked out the exchange of land to take that property, put it into the county's control. And so we have ownership and control of those properties. So occasionally there's some that don't quite fit what people would think of, but they are additions to the system or reductions.
It's very few gifts on the list. Is that to be expected?
No, it doesn't generally happen. Sometimes it will happen in road projects. There have been a few site plans that the county has given property to a developer or exchange for $1. Could be a purchase, maybe it's not listed as a gift. This was considered a gift for the way that worked. Could be a purchase, very low purchase for a developer to square his property to meet some kind of thing. It does happen. We haven't had any much recently, but I have seen some with road work. Particularly, we've had to shave off some parkland, and it's a reduction to the park system. It doesn't.
Yeah, that's a gift from the county
Yeah,
to
to
somebody
itself.
else. The other direction.
So what I would say is the 6915 29 North Street down there could have probably been termed a gift. That started out as a property owner approached us and said, we'd like to leave our property to you for, to add to the park system. At the end, they negotiated with us to pay for some recent improvements they made. So I think we paid about $100,000 for it. It was a split between us and DES. A house would have been $1 million purchase. So it was potentially a gift, but we still had to pay to acquire it. So
Yeah, a lot of the purchase could be legal approach to it. Like
Yeah.
$1 plus or whatever.
Yeah.
But in this case, 200. Thanks.
occasionally we get people, I have talked to a lot of people who want to give something to us, but then they find out that it's not tax break because it's already a natural area or something like that, and then they back out. But we do occasionally get some folks that want to leave us property and things like that. This is a little bit hard to see on this screen. I'm gonna have to see if we can do something better with the colors. This is just what's mapping those purchases. You really loses almost all of them for that huge list, but this is actually mapped. We'll share the presentation and you'll be able to see a little bit clearer, but this just kind of maps out where they all were. All right, next slide, Marco. Doesn't want to go. All right, and so I'm sure you're tired of me talking. This is our last slide. This is just a real high roll up. And so what we're looking at, this is each year, the program of, you can see the subtotal funding sources on the bottom is the yearly ask for the CIP for us. And it ranges from a high of like 67 to a low of 18. Some of this up and down you see is because there are other things going on in the county. Might be a very large investment at like the storm wastewater treatment plant or in fire trucks. And so other parts of the county need more investment. So ours is a little bit lower. So that's why these are kind of placed strategically based on what our good planning is, but also a little bit with the financial side. The bottom right corner is probably a key number, $286 million investment plan for the next 10 years. It is lower than the last time. I think we were at like $305 million last time for 10 years. That is because some of the larger projects that were 26 are off the books, but also because we have moved some stuff around and kind of reduced some things in our line items. And so the two main new changes were Barcroft and the Natural Resiliency and Habitat Restoration Program. There are two sort of largest new investments in the CIP. Everything else is mostly in line with what you've seen for the last CIP for 6 tweaks here and there.
And as far as you can predict, this is gonna fit within the requirement of the 11%.
Yeah.
rule. Okay.
Yeah. So all of the financial balancing, as way the manager believes, this will work. Now, the board may have, we don't want to be a different year. They could still have that conversation. But as right now, this is a balanced program with everybody else's and the county's other commitments to the 11%, things like that.
I'm curious regarding the federal funding. You believe you'll get fiscal year 2028, but no other year. Do you know anything about that?
So because the way the earmarks work, they pretty much only work with a phone call to us the same year. It says, hey, please give us some ideas for shovel-ready projects and a number. And they usually resolve till next year. We haven't been asked yet for any, so it's really hard to predict what, these aren't grant programs where there's a structure about what it should be and like how much is available. It's basically, we think we are able to put in this much for earmark. And then can you give us 2 or 3 projects that would work? I think we've asked, last year we asked for 3, we got the 2 with Dr. at Douglas Park. And so I'm anticipating we'll probably be asked again this year. And so.
So you don't, I mean, to be clear, it's just completely a modeling. It's completely unknown.
So the 4.8 is the actual number. That's reflective of the actual number there. Or excuse me, not the actual number, the federal line. I'm looking at it. So 1.8 is actually, no, that is in hand. We have our official HUD notification on that one right now. So we're actually just going through the process of getting the money from HUD at this point. That was a pass through HUD. So that one solid on the table. It's a years going forward. We see 0 lines all across. It's not that have no intention for not asking or going for some. We just can't predict when it would be.
How much was it last year, do you know?
How much was?
It's 1.8, so in prior years, was it also 1.8?
No, so last year, I don't believe we had any, but in 26, we had 500,000 for 550 for the Bluemont Junction trail improvements and bridge work over there, and then 350 for Doctor's Run. So it was roughly a 900,000 number that we had. It really just goes on the federal yearly budget and sort of honestly the politics that are happening across the river in any given year.
Hamilton had his hand up.
Yeah, so just to be clear, so the 1.8 million is actually part of the FY 2026 budget, but we're just not going to use it as the 2028. Is that how it works? Because they haven't passed the 2027 and 28 budget.
Yeah, yes,
So
that's actually a good description. So it was part of that 26 budget. It is programmed for our 28 project, which is with Douglas Run, Douglas Park would be developed. That's a very good capture of it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I probably did not explain that clearly. That's the year we have a program in, but the money was actually from the federal 26 budget. It's, it takes about 2 years to get it out of the feds, but by the time you're done not applying for the money.
It takes 3 years to write the budget. Former Fed.
Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork to HUD to get that money, even though it's been allocated.
Are there any questions from commissioners attending online?
We close to awarding the boathouse design contract.
So I am anticipating not a design contract, but the master plan contract is anticipating. I would really like to hang it to the July board meeting.
Okay, so you've gotten some responses to RFP.
Yeah, we are negotiating price on it.
Okay.
The question if we can get to the price and get to the board system, which starts a month out, so we have a few weeks to try to.
And Hamilton, do you have another question?
Yeah, are we going to get a copy of these really great slides? Because the stats on them are just awesome. I definitely want to share them with the Sports Commission, like the stats on the number of fields and stuff like that.
Yep, certainly. I think Marco, you've got the presentation. Now that what I ask is just if we could share it tomorrow,
Yes.
because we have to wait for the manager to finish his presentation before we're posting things like that. But you're free to share and post at that point. Just also to note, Sports Commission, I will be presenting this from 7 to 8 at the Sports Commission, and then 8 to 9 at the FNRC. So if anyone wants to hear it again, feel free to join us.
Thursday or tomorrow?
Next Thursday, the 28th, yeah.
Okay.
And then the same version on the 2nd. So we'll begin this presentation a lot.
It's gonna be great. I mean, it was great tonight, but it's gonna be super. on the
Yeah.
second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
well,
amazing.
it'll either be practiced or I'll be so exhausted by the time I get to the second.
You can read it your own.
You just-
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Eric. Does anybody have anything else?
Oh, that was really good.
No, that's a lot of information, complex information, very well explained.
Thank
Short
you.
period of time.
And I do have to say there's a whole team behind me, so this is not this is not my thing. I have 3 people that work on this with me almost full time. So, but they are feeding me the information. I end up just being the
Conduit.
and so the other thing is, you have any other questions? Feel free to follow up.
I have one, and that is that I think that as a marker for the future, I think we do need, I realize there's $2 million set aside for master planning for an unchosen as of yet Langston Boulevard public space. But I think based on the amount of developments that the county is anticipating happening in the Langston Boulevard corridor and one that they're actually planning for, that the county also needs to start beginning serious planning for this, making sure that there's sufficient parks and recreation space in that corridor. Well, there's not that much there now, and much of what's there is, you know, has seen its years, and I realize you guys are also working hard on keeping the maintenance up too. But we're going to be adding all these new people who went to the corridor. They need parks and recreation too.
Yeah, what is the status of that one? What's the nature, is it a nature center that closed or another rec center? that closed?
The
There's center.
The Lee Center.
Yeah.
It used to be the Lee Center.
That's not on the plan, right?
It's not in our CIP. I will tell you, I'm not completely honest. It would not normally be in the PRC part of the CIP because community facilities are generally DS facilities. So if you see refreshes to that center or River Hills or Madison, those are carried by DES. And so that is where our conversation. I think there will be some conversation about that. They have past CIPs that have carried some money there. I don't know where that landed for this day because I haven't dealt with it there and yet because we could.
Okay.
But it's a point taken. Well taken. Thank you.
All right, we'll let you go to your other thing.
Yes, you have to look at lights.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Usher and I think our other guys are here. That's not ready. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I think Joanne will go first.
Yep.
Good.
Okay, for everybody who came in late, it's my birthday and there's cookies. Okay.
Squeeze one in here.
Yeah, let's pull a second chair.
Pass it around.
Pass it around.
Been a busy day for some of you all.
So welcome Joanne Hutton and
Mariah Harris.
are we ready to go to the next meeting?
I think we are, yes.
You were gonna chat first, right, Joanne?
I'm happy
Yeah,
to.
We'll have Joanne go first, so.
You could just like me to, put a hook around my.
Well, I think this will be a little bit more accessible conversation than the one we just had. So, thank you so much for being here to talk about community gardens. So, give the floor to you.
So, all right, I was invited by Jill because in a past life, well, first of all, I am a community gardener. And in a past life, I've had 2 roles with respect to the gardens. And one was as chief gardener of my garden, which is 10th and Barton, located more or less, there's a lot of head nodding, so you all know where they are. All right, and at the same time, I managed the community gardens in the early 2000s when I worked for Parks and Rec, if you can believe it, for 5 years, and was stationed in the cooperative extension office. So I managed the master gardener program and the community gardens program. So that was kind of my little portfolio. I became a gardener through a friend who was looking for a partner. She was writing a book about cutting gardens, which she since published. So she used this plot to do a lot of experimenting and raising of some of the flowers she wanted to test. And I now have a plot by myself. Our garden has approximately 34 half plots. They began with whole plots and they've been gradually pared in half, partly because for one person, a whole plot is quite a lot to manage.
each plot is different size, a different shape, a different exposure. And the garden has a little bit of a history, which has some interest in that it was started in the 70s, about the mid-70s, by a then county board chairman, I'm told. James Hunter is a name some of you may recognize, although he died early, sadly, of cancer. I believe it was he who was a member of this garden and had started it. And, there was a bit of a movement. It was about the same time that the farmers markets were started. The arrangement to use the property we are on was, maybe this is quite common, but we don't actually, Arlington doesn't actually own the property. Are you familiar with this?
I am not actually.
Okay, yeah. So it's in use for $1 as a result of higher density being allowed in the building of Barton House, which is directly across the street.
Hey, take note for your SPRC meetings.
Okay,
Keep going.
all right. So we earnestly hope that if that building is ever sold, that owners don't have a different feeling about the county making use of it in this way. But that, and, at one time we had lots of parking out front that was free. And of course, that's almost all gone now. But we were gifted in, I would say about 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, with a lovely 6-foot fence when Arlington began to devote some more attention and resources to the urban agriculture program, because we had intrusions not only of the 2-footed kind, but there was also evidence of the 4-footed kind. And anyway, we've been extremely grateful because it's made a huge difference in this very urban setting. We actually also might have been considered for this because there had been not one, but 2 accidents while I was chief gardener, cars coming down Barton Street, a pretty steep hill, dashing, right through a red light and running into our fence and taking fence down. Actually, one person was injured. Yeah, so, and we're fairly sure there was texting involved, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. So for all those reasons, we were gifted that and later a shed. And we have a very small section set aside under hackberry tree that no longer, that gives enough shade. It's no longer a productive area for growing vegetables, which require full sun. And so that is a common area. We grow, again, cutting garden for everybody to just take home something to put on their table, and also have a little picnic table that people have scrounged and donated. And so we have that nice little community piece in our garden. And I can tell you just a little bit more. We're a smaller garden compared to Mariah, certainly, and then the garden that's on South Lang and South Glebe Street, which I believe is our largest. I think it might be even larger than yours, or you're about in the same. Because they're enlarging it, right? I know the county has bought properties along there because it's effectively a floodplain. And I think the properties have had some flooding in the past.
Wait, where is this?
South Lang, do you know Gunston School?
Yeah.
We're talking behind,
It's next to the water
lower.
treatment.
Oh.
Yeah, across from the water treatment,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
right?
So this was land that was purchased for overland flood relief, and now it's being used as community garden.
Correct, and it has been for quite a while.
Oh, but it was purchased a long time ago.
No, in the past 10 years.
Oh, okay,
Well, yes and yes.
okay.
So it's been expanded. And I do believe, and I may be wrong, because I'm not keeping track of how things are being managed at that level any longer. Since, frankly, they've kind of gravitated, I think, up here, right, to the headquarters. But I believe it might have taken some pressure off the waiting lists, which are extremely long. And one of the things we would find is when somebody enters as a new gardener, that, they often say they've been waiting for 5 years. or 6 years. By the time some people in Arlington have waited that long, they're on to the next thing. So waiting lists can become very fraught issues from a management point of view. Each garden governs itself, and that's a really good system, in my opinion. It is quite contrary to how, for example, Fairfax County manages community gardens, where there's a little person here and there are all these community gardens out there, and she does all the assignments and I guess management, because it engenders community. So each garden has its own bylaws, its own character. Some are extremely small. There are a few that are just a handful of gardeners, because there was a little bit of land tucked away here and there. Mariah and I were just talking, there was one that used to not even have water, except by grace of a neighbor who offered it to them. I believe that has been extracted from the community garden program. It was encroaching, there was canopy encroaching, wasn't as productive, and I think the county added it to the, was it Greencastle?
No,
Park?
Chestnut Hill.
Chestnut Hill Park.
Gwen, how many community gardens are there?
Seven,
Yeah,
I think.
I'll have it on my.
Yeah,
side. I
I
have
think
it.
Mariah's gonna, yeah.
May I actually add as well, as part of the staff reports that I send out every month, there's a section that includes the house demolitions for future public space incorporation. One of them that's listed is the Lang Street Gardens property, which is 2814 Arlington Ridge Road.
So I think that's the second or third they go longer.
Right.
So this might be the least one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, because I saw something in 23. I don't know if that's the same property.
It might be.
Might have taken that long
Yeah.
to make it happen. Yeah, but it's good that that's expanding. But of course, it's a big volunteer job, as Mariah's gonna tell you, to manage a garden that has 100 gardeners.
Wow.
And yeah, and the problem that we often have is you bring a new gardener in, if they're not completely acculturated, shall we say, if they don't have any gardening background and they don't realize they have to get going. It comes to be this time of year and we say, you were supposed to start gardening by the 1st of May, and you have to give them 2 weeks. That's kind of written into the county guidelines. And we all observe that, and then it's June, and if they still haven't gotten down to it, you've got an empty plot and it's June and it's 95 degrees there. So those are the kinds of issues one finds with filling the plots. But there are other wonderful things. We have 2 spaces in our garden that are dedicated to Plot Against Hunger, and we kind of advertise those at some of the urban ag events in the area, and volunteers will step forward and say, yeah, I'll raise food that goes into the food pantry. And in addition to that, our gardeners are very generous and often dedicate a portion of whatever they're growing for some of the other food pantry, the informal food pantries in the area, not just
Just kind of pure curiosity, but have you had any issue with vandalism at the garden locations? I mean, you've talked about some like people, maybe like not gardening, but have you ever had, and sometimes accidents with automobiles, but any overt vandalism?
Well,
I think
before there was a 6-foot fence, there was, people
Yeah.
putting their children inside and saying, go pick and things like that. I think
So
there
that's
there are a lot of- yeah, and we combination lock everything. So we had a little pilfering from the inside long ago from a very old gardener who'd been around for, there are issues always. And I'm sure some of the other gardens have that problem in spades in a way that we do not. So we're very, very grateful for the fencing that we have. We're cautious and we, apprise new gardeners of the need to just always be aware for security's sake and not to be gardening too late. And we have little, we put the lock on one way when we're in there by ourselves. So somebody who comes to the gate knows there's someone in there. Yeah. So.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, all right.
Yes, thank you, Joanne. I'm newer to the garden system, but I've had a garden at 4 Mile for BB. My kid is now at about to turn 14, so maybe 13 years. So
Okay.
still a while.
Yeah,
I'm counting in kid years. So this is just to give you sort of an overview of the system. I'm a little more visual, so I put this together. This is the system overall throughout the county. This is the county's ArcGIS map. The one Joanne was just talking about is 10th and Barton, that upper arrow. My garden is the lower arrow, south 4 mile down, just adjacent to the WNOD trail. So if you're ever on the WNOD and you see really long stretch of gardens, that's 4 Mile Run Community Gardens. It's often confused with Lang Street because that is also adjacent to 4 Mile Run, actual run, the stream.
Right.
And we also have another garden that's up the path, that's South Buchanan. And as Joanne said, the two largest are Lang Street and ours. And it goes back and forth depending on how plots are split up. I haven't talked to Scott lately to find out how many he has, but I'm guessing they have more right now. And yeah, we were talking about which one we think is the smallest, probably Key up there on the center. That one is those can go from, I just emailed with that chief gardener because I moved somebody into our garden and his wait list was 7 years. He said the gardener I got in would have been waiting for 7 more years to get a garden there. So I don't think there's much movement there.
There are a lot of apartment buildings around.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
don't have
Right.
down on
Right.
it.
Familiar with Roslyn Highlands Park? It's just north of there on Key Boulevard.
And one thing that we see both at Lang Street and at 4 Mile is that, for better or worse, the county, when people do apply, they will be encouraged to put one of our gardens as the second choice because we move so much faster. Both Scott at Lang Street and myself at 4 Mile, we're assigning people right now that are from the wait list from 2026. So our wait list is 1 year to 2 years.
Great.
Part of that for at least us has to do with how transient our area is. A lot of people will be in condos for a while nearby, and then they have kids or they have job needs that force them to move. So we have a good amount of movement. Some of the other areas that are, I think, a little more residential with more established community members, they're not necessarily moving on as regular basis. I would say that's a good thing to offer people community garden space by offering these other options. Just anecdotally as a chief gardener, when somebody lives really far away from their garden, their likelihood of gardening is pretty low, and we don't tend to keep them for very long just because they realize with travel and everything, it's more of a burden than they can take on at that time, but at least it gives them the opportunity to give it a try and decide what they think of it. So we can go to the next one. That was more info. If people want to join the gardens, they join through the waitlist system, which is Parks and Rec managed through RecTrack. You have to be an Arlington County resident. This is a difficult thing for volunteers to manage. We do our best. We check IDs, but then people move out of the county and they still keep their gardens because we don't have a way of, I'm not checking your tax records. We have Arlington County rules and we have garden bylaws. We've also had a problem with people, I have no idea why, wanting more than one garden in the system. So they got one at 4 Mile, the wait list crossed. They're also on the wait list for Fort Barnard because you can list up to 2. They get the one on Fort Barnard, they call their friend and they go, hey, do you want to take that one? That's resolved a little bit because it's electronic, but that was a thing going for a while. This is our map. So you can see our stretch. We stretch from about South George Mason, not as far as Walter Reed, but about 2/3 of the way down. You can't miss it if you're ever on that trail.
So why stop? Can you keep going?
The other area, so Joanne mentioned how her garden is used. This is under an easement from Nova Parks, also in some agreement with Dominion Power because we're directly under the power lines. So there's some coordinated agreement I don't know the background of. I don't believe there's an annual fee paid or anything like that, but I don't know why. We did expand probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago. Yeah, and we expanded to one section. Further down, it would really be more legwork to make it usable because it's a ditch. So there's a lot of water collecting there. There is another section between our gardens, between our major sections that has a lot of, I think Natural Resources said there's a decent number of invasives, but there are a decent number of natives also. So that little stretch is also a little bit hard to reuse. So it would be hard to move it further down in terms of what would be needed to change the topography there.
On the other side of South George Mason, there's an elevation problem.
Right, and then further up is an elevation problem. Yeah, there's a hillside there. So So that's where we're located.
Are all your plots full plots?
No,
Like
if
here.
you go to the next slide, I think I listed, ta-da.
Okay.
So we have 125 gardens, 18 of them are full plots, 29 are what we call large halves, 78 are what we call small halves. They're all variable because they were done at different times. When I started as chief gardener, there were just strange gardens that hadn't been managed for some time that, there just was a lot of stuff that had to be brought sort of back in order a little bit. Just to get an idea of what's involved this year, 85 waitlist gardeners were contacted. Of those 85, 22 new gardeners got an orientation, which I've now recorded, so I don't have to do it 22 times. And of those 20 joined, we've had 2 that have joined, but then had job changes, so moved. Last year, we used enough water to fill the pool, and we used enough mulch to fill that truck. So that'll show in the next slide sort of how, well, I'll show in the next one. But so in garden management, Joanne mentioned this, we have a community garden membership. Within that community garden membership, there's a smaller subset that volunteers to manage the gardens. That number can vary from 1 to, I don't know, Fort Barnard, I think, is one that has quite a few chief gardener. They have different and assistants. So different gardens have different numbers of managers or within the organization. We deal with DES directly by submitting mulch orders and working with them for deliveries. Water billing is done through them. We work with Parks and Rec for waitlist information. Fees are paid through them. Trash pickup is done by the same Parks and Rec trash trucks, I think, that do the parks. Which sometimes is an issue.
Composting
Yes,
from the community gardens.
yes,
Just so you know.
yeah, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, say that again. There's no what?
Compost.
No, I know what composting is. What do you mean? What do you mean by there's no
Like
compost?
there's
I
no
mean,
green bin pickup, for example,
There's
how we
no
have green bin pickup.
Because if I was told, we don't pay that fee the way residents do. Parks picks it up. We do not separate trash. All trash is
Everything
collected.
goes, yeah.
It's all, I guess, burned.
So is there an area where you can compost on site?
I'm just gonna tell you, it doesn't work when you have,
That
how many
gardens?
gardeners?
Okay,
Uh,
it's too big a volume.
Yeah.
It's not just volume, it's also educating the
Oh,
gardeners
People don't know
to
what's
do it
in how to do
appropriately,
it.
and you have to have someone to manage it.
Okay, gotcha.
So it's a bigger task than can be really incorporated into.
Yeah, we did have one plot for a while that we used for that purpose. That's since been turned into just a place with a picnic table. Management was an issue. I have a lot of gardeners, though, myself included, that just compost on site in our own, but it requires like work and knowledge and things like that. And it's easier to put it in a bag and throw it over the fence. So it is I don't know how actually that goes into the county's totals though, because all the totals I see are residential totals, so ours wouldn't maybe necessarily get included in there. And then if the community gardens have a problem, for example, if our water is leaking, we use the report a problem system that the residents use. That has ups and downs because we send a picture of a leaking thing and then somebody shows up when no one's there and they look at it and they go, it's not leaking. And then they close the ticket and you have to call them back and say, no, you got to turn it on to see that it's leaking. And then, so that's an interesting interaction. But that's kind of how the gardens are managed. I'm in full agreement with Joanne that as tedious as it is to find volunteers, the amount of time it takes to manage a garden, it makes the most sense to have the people managing it be embedded in the community that it is. It would be very difficult for the county person who, I believe it's the Urban Ag Program Manager that's officially assigned over the gardens. I know all 125 gardeners' names. I know who their kids are. When I walk by, I can tell if they're supposed to be there or not. I can see who the people are. We unfortunately were not gifted with a large fence, which is a bummer because for 125 gardens, our theft is rampant. I've had gardeners who were in condos that brought their balcony trees and had them in the garden for the summer, their guava trees, their tropical trees they have at home. And people jumped the fence and just picked them up and took the whole thing because they're not in the ground. They're not allowed to be in the ground. So that's something that's ongoing with the county to talk about. It is expensive to do a fence for our whole area. But do Do you force people to pay fees to do something that stuff gets stolen? You know, like how do you work out the equity in that? So that's, you know, that's just sort of continuing discussions.
Is
Do people
Barton
pay?
the only one that has a 6-foot fence?
No, I think we might be the only one without a 6-foot fence.
Fort Bernard does.
No,
and-
they have a tall fence.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
They
they
have
do
a
have it,
tall
yeah.
fence. That was some interesting arrangement. I mean, there've been arrangements.
Yes, there are many arrangements in the garden
Uh,
system, and if you're not on the inn,
But
you're not.
Lang is not.
Lang is the big fence.
It is now?
It is. Lang
Okay,
is a new
that's new.
fence,
That's new
Buchanan is a
then.
new fence.
Okay.
We also have deer, although it seems like we're in a weird location, there are a few adjacent to the park, they come up through Barcroft and then they'll go in. This year, not as bad. They did, not this year, the past, I'd say 5 years, not as bad, but some years.
Okay, do people pay?
Great question. Great segue. Yeah. Next slide.
Do we ever?
Garden fee structure. So this, Joanne and I were talking about.
Oh,
this. If you-
sorry,
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick. I just had a question of, circling back to compost of, the ones that are like around Shirlington. I just was wondering if there was a way to do, like drop-offs at the recycling yard. Like I know that they take organics and that it's not too far.
They're probably, what, right now, I think what Shirlington has set up is that they're okay with you doing food compost. But what we generate a lot of is like at the end of the season, we have a lot of tomato vines, peppers, plants, corn stalks, and they don't want that type of yard waste in their bins, as far as I know. They just want like the food waste. And then even if they do, it's voluntary. So you'll just get, you know, this, I haul my stuff home and put it in my green bin. You know, that's easier for me. So we probably wouldn't get as much buy-in. But I don't know that it's set up to allow for that, at least at our volume that I know of.
We just
Gotcha.
had
I was just curious.
a work party at 10th and Barton, and this is just clearing fence lines in public areas. And we generated more than 4 large trash containers of green waste. Because things.
And is that trashed? That
It's all
waste?
trash. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It
We
was,
also have work days and we've had issues with how to manage the trash, because take her volume times 4 at least. And yeah, just for initial cleanup, also people build garden beds, eventually those break down, then you've got broken down wood pieces that have to be trashed, things like that. So we do need the option for larger disposal. So the garden fee structure, there's a portion paid to Parks and Rec, which that's how it's publicized on the website. Neither Joanne nor I know what these without water plots are. I've never seen one in Arlington.
I knew what they used to be,
Yeah. So
because
so
I
that was the
mentioned
one you
one,
mentioned.
but
But
I
I don't
think everybody's
I
got
think
water now.
everybody's got water at this point. And then paid to the garden itself. This is historical from my conversations with other chief gardeners. I'm saying 38 to 115 plus because this was prior to the mulch fee raises and the water fee raises. So both of those have affected our fees that gardeners have to pay in the past 3 years. I think there've been 1 or 2 mulch, maybe just 1 mulch raise and 1 water raise.
So is this monthly?
For the year, for the year.
For you, okay.
Per year.
Yeah, but good question.
Yeah.
For gardening season.
So if they're paying the county for water, why are they also paying?
You know, it's a good question.
Because we get, you know, they pay us according to how much water we use. We pay a water
Yeah,
bill.
What is the fee that they pay the county go for?
That's a good question. No one's given us a good answer on that. However, you know, we do put in tickets for a leaking water fountain, but you would do the same at a park. So I don't know why a community garden user would pay a fee for the same service that a park gets. But that has not been fleshed out or fully explained to me. And I haven't heard from other gardeners. So it is a little bit confusing. So people think, and I get the question from gardeners all the time, I already paid the county. Yes, I understand you paid the county, but our fees are operating fees. So our fees pay for water, mulch. We have a few new gardener fees because our garden didn't know the county was giving away sheds, so we free sourced sheds. And we have sheds in each section that people's brother-in-law were giving away that we found, that we hauled. So we have those. So when you enter our garden, you pay your fees, but we have tools, we have hoses. We have everything you need on site to start.
The hoses have to be replaced. you know,
Every so
10
often,
years or
yeah.
So it's that kind of thing.
So I think it varies by garden what they offer, but I would say at a minimum, it's mulch and water. I think some tool usage, but some smaller gardens, you just have your own tools. So that's,
115 seems high.
I think the 115 is Lake Street. That's one of the numbers I saw from them.
For a whole plot, maybe.
I think for a full, and those numbers are gonna go all the way to the full size, yeah. So as much of a pain in the neck as it is to voluntarily manage a community garden, what are some of the things I like? At least our garden, for sure. I can't speak for all the gardens, but within 125 gardens, it's probably the biggest intersection of different groups that you'll see in any Parks and Rec activity that I've ever participated in terms of income level. I have gardeners that are, doing just fine, gardeners that are getting free and reduced lunch for their kids and applying for the reduced fee through Parks and Rec. We've got people in their 20s that are single or, newly married that are gardening. We have grandparents with grandkids gardening. I know of at least 8 languages spoken in our garden. I don't do race, but cultural origin, is going to exceed those 8 languages. So these are just a few of the things that I thought of sort of as I was looking at that. So it's a really interesting intersection of community members, which is really nice. And again, with the community management, when I go to the grocery store, I run into my gardeners for better or worse. So, there is that. And we're also like a little bit of a face of the county because nothing makes people want to stop and chat more than when you are actually working in your garden and doing something you need to do. So, and Joanne mentioned being generous with pantries and things like that. That is true with our garden as well, but it even just extends to, you saw the lettuce that you liked, I have extra lettuce, here you go. So there's a lot of transactions across the fence, if you will. So that's, those are interesting things about being a member of a community garden. And I think that was it. That was, the idea was, I think when I run into people that see the community gardens, they assume that it's this county run organization or they're not clear how it's run.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more grassroots than is visible through the website. Vegetable roots.
The only thing I would add to that, there used to be someone at that garden who was actually raising culturally interesting produce and selling it maybe to local restaurants. So yeah, so I mean, it's actually
I don't know if
helping.
that's legit. I don't know.
Well, why isn't it?
I don't,
something
because
generating
I
income
think
for
on certain parks property, you're not supposed to be making it, like, you're not supposed to be making income. Like, the kids aren't supposed to sell lemonade in the park. Right? Like, that's against county rules. So,
All right.
that kind of thing. There used to be. They share within their community members.
Jeff and then Melissa.
Yeah, how are the pods separated?
So when I started managing them, there were kind of different types of fencing and things like that in between them. I've started trying to remove those and we have mulched walkways between them. Fences end up with a lot of weeds that nobody, like, that's your weed. No, that's your weed. And it's just a mess. So primarily mulched walkways. Yeah.
Is there like a term limit or like if I start at 20 and go till 80, that's my plot forever?
Yep.
As long as you're not in violation for the most part, and people usually stick with the plot that they have. Sometimes people will move because our gardens are so long. I try to assign, if you live on this end, I try to assign you to this side. Sometimes people want to move if that option becomes available.
Interesting. Okay. Also, they're very beautiful. I bike by. I'm like, slow down a little bit to look
No,
at them
yeah.
and speed up.
Yeah.
I thought exactly what you said.
Yeah.
I didn't know how they're.
Yeah, it's confusing. And there are old signs that say Virginia Cooperative Extension.
Yeah.
There's like all this historic signage around, it's like wrong phone numbers. I've told the county person and their, when budget allows. they'll
Signs
update the
cost
sign.
money.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm like, could we put a piece of paper over it at
So
least?
laminated new information.
Well, that's exactly what
I
you
mean,
dictated.
yes, I'm not against low budget solutions.
So I want to put a footnote on the concept that Joanne's garden is the result of obviously a site plan negotiation community benefit. And I made this suggestion to the site plan at the Spire, which is 440 Fairfax Avenue. Oh, yeah, I think it was. And explained, you had told me when we talked about this, that you're getting a lot of applications from the high density apartments in the nearby area. And that if the developers could possibly accommodate additional community gardens a la this system that is at Joanne's place. You know, so keep that in your mind. I mean, I know we talk about dog parks, and we talk about fitness centers, and we talk about native plants and trees, but think about community gardens and keep that in your mind when you're doing site
I think
plans.
that's an excellent idea. I do want to ask a follow-up question about that.
Yeah.
Who actually run it, and that is, I would imagine that the sites appropriate for community gardens, there are some real limitations here, right? So you need a lot of sun. So putting community gardens in an area with a lot of tall buildings, that might preclude the amount of sun possibility for building a community garden there, because you just lose half the day's worth of sun because you're shaded out.
Yeah, that would need to be assessed, I think.
Yeah, I mean, are there other limitations that you could?
As we think about these site plans that
Yeah.
come up, like what should,
I think community. I mean, the people that live in those communities, I would say, that's what I hear. Like West Village is a condominium community right behind us. I easily have, I don't know, 25 gardeners from that community. They have lots of green open space, but they're using it as lawns. So people value lawns over potentially native gardens, potentially other things, but often those sites are, you know, they're cleared to the ground, so there aren't mature trees that are usually an issue right away. But on site, I have seen that in condo communities, where there is pushback, and I have yet to figure out why, but when I have talked to people in different communities, they're okay with it being elsewhere, and then you're dealing with HOAs and things like that, so those get dicey.
They have to be managed.
Yeah.
As we
Yeah.
just
That's the other issue,
Yeah.
right?
I
You need somebody to manage it.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
so, also the county, as Marco pointed out in the report, is purchasing these different lots. They come available for overland, flood relief. And the ones that I know about in Waverly Hills, used to be single family homes. So, but they're not necessarily adjacent. I know of 3, I think are adjacent, and then 2 that are kind of nearby. And these are former home sites, so I don't know what the size is. But, you know, should we be pushing for community gardens to go into those until the county decides what to do with them? I mean, it would be, I'm sure it would be temporary, because I'm sure the county would probably turn them into a park, or I don't know, something. But, yeah, so what are the limitations in that
I mean,
respect?
water, have a water access.
Water's important.
Yeah.
Yeah, the water access is important, and also, I mean, a lot of these gardens, it's taken, I don't know, 20 years plus to come, like, to get to a meaningful structure that manages well enough to keep things running. So short term, you'd have to have some really sort of very specific standards that have to be maintained,
Okay.
you know?
And those exist. You know,
It's
there's a
possible, and that
Community
might be,
gardening association that has,
that has
yeah.
these kinds of things.
How often are new community gardens added? When was the last new?
Like a
well-
whole garden, or
Yeah.
just even expansion is what I've seen most recently.
Right, what was it?
I don't even know, because it was before I began in 2000. It was certainly before 2001.
So the current ones that exist now were
Been a
all
while.
here in 2001.
I beg your pardon?
The ones that exist now were all.
Were already in existence, and as I mentioned, one very small one without water no longer exists. But there's been expansion at
There's
some
been
of the others.
expansions, yeah. Glebe, Lang Street / Glebe and our garden have had some added in the past 10 years.
Temporary expedience may be challenging.
It might not work for temporary, but.
What I have
Because there's
seen-
also like other
do it.
plots, like, is it Gary knows this one, but you know, the plot that, Amazon's gonna build.
Place.
Penn Place. And so we know something else is gonna go there, but it's not gonna go there within the next 2 years, maybe not even within the next 5 years, who knows? So is that,
I mean, in certain high density areas or like neighborhoods where conformity is a little more desired, I would say. I've seen other models like things in Fairfax County where they pre-make beds, you know, they're like they create raised beds that are uniform. And so that can make management a little easier. It can make this, you can dictate the size. Something, you know, creating spaces like that would probably be more acceptable in locations like that. I mean, even within my garden, I would say that it's a constant struggle between cultural standards and cultural what's okay. You know, I have gardeners that use a lot of recycled materials. I have gardeners that spend hundreds of dollars to buy things online.
House beautiful.
Right. So, you know, you've got to always balance those kinds of things. So if you're in communities where that conformity, uniformity is important to acceptance, kind of plugging in small beds or things might be a way to, these are temporary beds. It's a pop-up garden. It's a, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
You might be able to create it around that and people would be okay with that.
Awesome.
Very good.
All of these 7 different gardens, they all have different managers.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, each.
And
house-
about how long have these managers been doing this? Wow,
They change often.
yeah. they
It
changed a lot.
depends on.
Whether there's a crisis.
Did
you take over from Chris?
Yes.
Huh. Oh, yeah. 25 years maybe before Mariah took over. I mean, he must have been very young when he started.
So these are real labors of love. These are
Really
people who
true.
invest Enormous amounts of their.
You said it.
time.
It's a calling. It's a
Yeah.
calling in some people's case. On the other hand, you know, at our garden, we have had turnover and it's because we have an informal, very informal, working group or executive group. And we, you know, if we have an issue, we get online and we just talk about it and we sort it out. And we also have been very effective at getting other people, because we have to mow our, you know, walkways and do things like that and look after our fence line. And people look down on our garden, you know, so we have the occasional grumble, not very many. But what she said is exactly right. We have House Beautiful right next to me, and on the other side of her is the Scrounger,
Which is.
who's a
gardeners
single
like
woman,
forever,
you
our
know,
scroungers.
looking after herself and you know, using cardboard and whatever she can find. And you know, so
No exceptions, yeah.
well.
Well, thank you guys so
Yeah,
much for
thank
coming.
you.
Are there any last questions or any thoughts and comments from Hannah? Do you want to bring those up?
Yeah.
Well, I, as much as, perhaps she should voice them, because didn't you say at the beginning of the meeting that, the chat cannot be used for meeting discussion, it can only be used for technical?
Yeah, this is actually a staff person that was talking to me about certain considerations related to this topic, but
Oh,
Okay. So
well, I don't know. Hannah, I don't know if you wanted to say anything related to that.
Sure. Hi everyone, this is Hannah Park. I'm a landscape architect with DPR. I was just chatting with Marco. I moved here from Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and we had a model of sort of like a communal garden. So obviously not everyone has a garden when you live in an apartment building in Brooklyn. So you sign up for a garden plot, or I guess community garden, but everyone gardens together. So, and I think you have to sign up for shifts, I think a few times a year or something like that. And if you don't complete your shift, then you have to like, you can, I guess, continue your membership. But I was just wondering, considering a long wait list and potential unfairness of lifetime ownership of a plot, right? I just was wondering if we have ever considered a different model so that more people can join and garden together if that's what they wanted, instead of having their own, I guess, individual plot. So, yeah, just wondering.
yeah, that's such an interesting to think about. I'll let you guys comment on that, but we really need to wrap up.
I have thought of different models, particularly for elderly people or people that just want time to like noodle in the garden, but they don't actually want the full-time management of a plot. I think that would be an experiment in human behavior, at least in this area. But I find that people are really gung-ho at one point, then they fizzle out. Maybe having a team effort would help. I also see people are really excited to show up for the harvesting, less so for the meeting. So it would be, you know, a certain group of people, I think it could be done, but it would be Probably a small scale trial. I have thought of it because I do have gardeners that they just enjoy being out with other people and the time, but it's a subset of the larger community is what I would say.
Just thought it kind of related to, do you ever like, people lose their plot because they don't use it or they don't, do you have like rules around that? How does that work?
Yeah, I'll be meeting with the Parks and Rec people tomorrow about some of those. Yeah, there are rules. People don't like it though, so that often generates the most complaints. We've modified our bylaws so that when you have a violation, you have 10 days to correct it. When you have another violation, you have another 10 days, but you now have two violations within a rolling year. And that means you can lose your garden with another one, because we end up with this cycle of like, I don't weed, you tell me I have to weed, so I weed. I don't weed, you tell me I have to weed, then so it just goes on the whole year.
Without any productive gardening.
Correct. It's just, I just have to get the weeds when you tell me, kind of thing. So,
So I'm sorry, so how have you addressed that though?
so if they have so we modified our bylaws, if you have two violations within a rolling year,
Yep.
the third one, you're subject to removal.
But how does that
You lose
actually
your garden
happen?
plot.
How does that happen? Is it like, it definite, or does it have to be like a vote of members, or how does it?
I mean, if you violate, I mean, usually the people that are violating the rules weren't really that into gardening anyway.
Yeah, I think that if you just frame it correctly, you say, I think you went into this imagining that you really wanted to do it, but you may not have the time right now in your life. Maybe this is something you can come back to.
Life coaching.
And we give them the wait list. They're always welcome to rejoin.
Yeah,
the meetings.
right?
It doesn't mean they will never have a garden again. Also, we have lots of people that have life situations and, they get a little bit of a pass if they had a broken leg. I had
So
one
who
garden.
decides the discretion as to when something is a life decision?
Exactly.
What is discretion?
Who has that discretion?
We're gonna have.
Who has the discretion? The managers, but the
Jill
reason,
will share our.
the reason the community managers also work is because a lot of this is based on a pattern of behavior. It's not you forgot to weed once and you lose your garden. It's, it's usually ongoing when people lose gardens.
But I mean, who has the authority over that
In
discretion?
my garden, we've got a little group, as I mentioned. We will have a discussion. I do inspections. So I send out a very sweet email that says, now, the weather's been rough, but you were supposed to be gardening by May 1, and we need to know because it's impossible to find a gardener by June 1. So we need to see action, effectively. And, if that doesn't bring something on, then it gets reassigned and that person has sacrificed their, payment for water and their, and then you go to your wait list. So
if people feel like they've been incorrectly dismissed from the garden, they have contacted the county. And then the county will reach out to us and say, this person thinks they were unfairly removed from the garden. And we can go from there. But it's just based on the bylaws. The county, for people that have had serious illness like cancer, sometimes they can have somebody work the garden for them. They can have a helper work the garden for them. But there is a lot of discretion because there really is no way to do it except we can't write everything into the rules down to the letter.
I hope you understand my concern here, which it comes across as if there is somebody who, for one reason or another, there's a personality clash, it can function just like HOA politics. Self-described people who run the garden, who say, sorry, you lose this plot that you've waited for years to get. You can understand some of my trepidation on that.
I don't think there are very many tyrannical chief gardeners, however. So I think
Really?
I think that the community manages it well in this community. Maybe other places that's not the case, but I didn't run into.
Here. I'm sure it's possible. I agree with you that such a thing could exist. I personally don't get a big paycheck out of anything, so I don't get any benefit. And because I'm particularly culturally sensitive because of my background and my gardeners. So I try to make everything as cut and dry as possible. So there's no, I don't like the way you garden. And I've had to defend the way people garden against people who think it's an ugly way of gardening. And I can't justify kicking them out just because they use recycled materials. So although you're leaning one way, you'd be surprised how often it leans a different direction. So you do your best, but you know, if there are major issues, the county has been, has been contacted in the past, and they will try to resolve it as best as possible.
And
If they
sometimes
see,
you contact your connection in the county and say, I want you to know that this,
yeah.
There have been issues that have escalated. Okay.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Very informative.
And Jill, hats off.
Thank you. Okay, so last meeting, here we go. You're about to get the end of me. Okay, staff.
Staff
report.
reports, yeah, I'll be very quick on this. I'm just gonna reiterate
Okay.
I'll just reiterate the two dates that Eric mentioned earlier about the CIP work sessions in June and July. So the first one with the Department of Parks and Recreation and the County Board is scheduled for Tuesday, June 2nd. I think right now the time is 12 p.m. That's also another one, the CIP work session with the county advisory groups and commissions, scheduled for Thursday, July 9th at 4 p.m. And the entire list of scheduled CIP meetings can be found on the county board's meeting webpage. Now that she's here, I'll introduce her as well. Hannah Park, who's joining us at our meeting tonight, will also serve as my co-staff liaison starting in June. So she's joining us tonight. Joshua served in that role previously, so just wanted to welcome Hannah onto this role.
Nice to meet you all.
Good for me.
Okay, we have commission member reports. We want to make sure that, we have to say goodbye to Daniel. And Sarah is going to take his place on the transportation master plan. Daniel, we'll say goodbyes at the end of the meeting, but we'll be sad to see you go. All right, and then,
It's you, Jill.
yeah, I'm going to say goodbye too.
That's potentially for projects as
Yeah,
well.
that's what, okay, so William's going to take over my two things.
Yes, and
What
then
do we
we
have?
have two potential site plan projects that are coming online. The first being the Brookfield site. That was shared as a link on the agenda. I'll just quickly go through what that is. That is in Pentagon City. It's an adaptive reuse project at 601, 701 12th Street South. Previously, these are two vacant 12-story office buildings that is being proposed to be reconverted to multifamily residential with new ground level retail and residential extensions per the project website. 607 total dwelling units, almost 30,000 square feet of ground floor retail, as well as 3,500 square feet of office, among other items. So that's the first one. The second one is 4,500 Langston Boulevard, the Kensington Elder Care site plan project. This is right off of Langston Boulevard and Cherry Hill Road along the Langston Boulevard corridor. The proposal here is to provide for a 7-story elder care facility consisting of assisted living units with optional independent living units, as well as approximately 3,300 square feet of ground floor commercial use. So these are two projects that are going to be coming online soon. I believe there is a community engagement opportunity scheduled. Yes, an online engagement opportunity for the Kensington project between May 18th and May 28th. So if there's any interest on either one of these, we can note that tonight.
Yeah, anybody want to raise their hand? And make William do them all?
Yeah, I could, look at, Pentagon City one, that's not.
Okay. Great.
Dave, that other one's across from your house.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, I'm very, very much in support of that project. It is really close to me. I'd be happy to be involved, but yeah, I'd like to have somebody else to be involved as well.
Oh, to temper your.
Yeah.
enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Oh, anybody want
I
to?
can be a backup.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's even, no matter what your views are, if you're knowledgeable about it, I think it's very helpful.
I'm very knowledgeable at 500 feet from the site.
Thank you so
So
much.
we're noting, Dave, you'll be the primary and William will be backup.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
William, can you pass the cookie?
Yeah. You've been waiting very patiently. You could have more than one now.
Yes.
Great. And then we have,
And then, not sure if there's any other items that you wanted to address on the commission member reports.
Well, I have one.
Okay, go
and I
ahead.
wasn't able to update you yesterday because it happened last night.
Okay.
And that was the BHC facility in
Yes.
South Carolina Springs. The first SPRC meeting was last night. It was very well attended. There were quite a few people from the adjacent neighborhoods, to people who are just interested in sure if there's additional facilities in Arlington.
can you guys on here?
I'm going to speak up.
Sure. This is
They
going to be
can't hear.
split into two separate meetings. One was last night, the other one will be in June. Last night, the subjects were land use, open space and landscaping and site design. And included in this was discussion of the integration with this site into the adjacent Long Branch Park, which is a pretty important, one of the best park resources we have in the county. Pretty ecologically rich for Arlington County, and this site is directly adjacent to it. I'd say that there was a consensus that this was a good use of the land that's there, that the facility is desperately needed in the county and in the region. But there was a lot of conversation about how it was integrated into the site. There is quite a bit of surface parking, over 83 spaces that are outside of the facility that do not include the parking garage that apparently the county has asked to be constructed there. So there's a lot of questions and concerns about that. And the county hasn't been up to this point clear, probably because it doesn't know why they need these spaces. They want to set them aside for whatever they decide to do with the north parcel that is now a parking lot that they retain, and that has been empty for about 7 years. So that has a pretty significant impact on the site, and that conversation is ongoing. There were a lot of people concerned about that. I was one of them. The site now has been planned for 26% tree canopy. I think the guideline is the requirement is 10%. But I think it was generally agreed that the applicant should be shooting for at least 30% based on where it is. They should all be natives. There's general agreement about trying to keep the grass, the turf grass, to a minimum as well, and perhaps providing some meadow habitat or whatnot. Again, the site is right next to one of our premier parks, so we're trying to make it as sustainable as possible. There's also a lot of talk about impervious surfaces there as well.
You said, well, this is next to Long Bridge?
It's next to Long
Long
Branch.
Branch.
Long Branch.
Thank you. So it's on South Carlin Springs Road.
Got it.
So
It's right
Long
next
Br-
to the school.
Yeah.
there are 3 schools that are within a half mile of this, including
But it's
campus.
adjacent to campus.
Yeah, no, and
Not quite adjacent.
Okay,
There is,
down the hill.
there are 2 properties kind of that are between them, but it is very close. So, yeah, we'll have another meeting in June where we'll be talking about transportation and there'll be a focus on the sustainability of the facility. We didn't talk about that at all last night, but we will be then. And so we'll have more conversations about friendly glass, energy use, all that good stuff as well. So there's a lot of work to be done. So no one questioned the need for the facility in Arlington and the region. It's just how it's put there.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, what is the facility that they're building?
This is going to be a behavioral health facility for both adults and for adolescents. This will be both residential and outpatient, I understand.
And it's a private.
Yes, so this is the VHC. VHC has leased about 5 acres or so from the county. And then a third party will be running this.
And this is where the former
VHC
says
from 10 years ago.
Yes.
Yes, there was an all-night emergency room there.
Yes, my son went there for concussion.
Yep. So that it is basically that building was completely removed about 7 or 8 years or so ago, or in stages, and it's now empty. And so about where that building was is where this will go. Again, this does not include the parking lot just to the north of that. The county retains ownership of that.
Okay, any more, any questions? Okay, and then I put in my notes about the 2 site plans that I'm working on. They're ready to be written down. So if there's no discussion, I'm happy to write those letters and William can send them in. You read it, that's fine. Okay, now we're going, anything else on our reports? Oh, Eric.
Yeah, just real quick. I didn't get my report in on time, so apologies for that. But I did have the last Vision Zero stakeholder meeting in April. So just wanted to give a quick update. They did a lot of engagement. They got like thousands of responses, and they switched some things up based on the feedback that the different stakeholders provided. So just the timeline is they are going to finalize and share the action plan in June. They're going to request to advertise at the county board meeting in July, and then at September, they're going to try to adopt. So that's the current timeline for Vision Zero.
You okay with what the state of things?
Yes, yeah, I think it looks pretty good, and everyone, seems to be on the same page of just trying to get real meaningful change with this plan. So yes, I'm satisfied with it.
Good, thank you for that. That's a lot of work that you put into that, so I appreciate you seeing it all the way through. Letters to the county board. We've got a capital improvement plan letter that's gonna have to go in June. And then another one perhaps in July. So is anybody interested in praising and humbling ourselves to make sure that we get that extra money for basic plan removal? Who wants to write the letter? Nobody. I might extend my scary. We're scary. Should we make Gary do it?
Not here.
You've written.
Hey, voluntold.
The good news is we've written the letter.
We've already written the letter.
We've written the benefits letter. I mean, I'd be happy I'm gonna be doing the capital for the pedestrian side. I'd be happy to work with anybody else.
Do you want to do the other things other than the basic plan part?
Well, I'd like to work with whoever else might be interested.
Well, we can't have subcommittees.
What would be a subcommittee? Just be 2 members.
Okay, yeah.
Together.
So 3 is the magic.
Yeah, 3's evil.
Two's okay.
You
Yeah.
can have at least a phone call, and say, hey.
Two can have a phone call.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd be happy to do it.
Does anybody else want to do it? If we're gonna get Dave, we gotta get somebody else.
I can certainly do it before the end of the week. I am gonna be out of town after that.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
End of this week? Yes.
Nelson,
We're not gonna be doing
aren't you a
this.
budget person?
We won't be doing it this
You're
week.
not a budget. Sarah, you're a budget person. Would you be willing to work with Dave?
Sure, I can give it a try. I've never done this before, but
Dave is
I
great
can
to
give it my
work with.
best.
But you do budgets for your work, right?
I do, yes. I wrote all the narratives for the FEMA budget just a few months ago.
You're perfect.
So,
I can make things up.
yeah, Dave is great to work with. And,
Okay.
And we have draft letters from the past years and everything. Oh, I have a thing.
Okay, fantastic.
Great, thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Dave. And I'll work with Gary.
So Joe, will you reference 2? Why did you say June?
Well,
Yeah, so Eric said you probably want to get the first letter in before the board meets in June, because otherwise you're fighting a rear guard battle. Everything's in place in June, and if you advocate for something in July, you're trying to, if you want to get in the front door and say.
I totally understand it. Was he
plans-
talking about the workshop on the 2nd? In June, the 2nd of June?
Yes, so the board's gonna meet on the 2nd. We're not gonna be there, but you want your letter there. That's his recommendation.
So 2 weeks.
so much time.
Yeah, most of it is favorable. That's right, what's already in
Okay,
Can you do it?
yeah.
And then the letter itself can say,
Just trying to
More to
understand
come.
what we were talking about. Yeah.
more to come if something changes.
there. Yeah, we can always.
And I'm still on duty.
You should have said that.
So feel free.
Well, you're a citizen, we can.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and then we've been asked whether we want to do another letter on the gas-powered leaf blowers. As you may recall, we had a presentation and then we wrote a very short letter asking, saying we'll write more whenever you figure out what the phase-in period is and what the enforcement is going to be. Well, they figured that out and they're going to, Jennifer Figueroa is going to the county board, I think in June.
In June.
So if we want to, we can write another letter like we said we would, or we can just sit on the letter. that-
My position on this is unchanged. We should be in support of this.
Do you want to write the letter?
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, I will say that I think our last one, our guidance was the 3-year
That's what they picked.
Basin.
phasing. We are in the minority among the other environmentally focused commissions in Arlington.
What are their opinions?
Yes,
They wanted faster phasing.
yes.
Okay, what was like 2 years?
There was an 18-month option and a 2-year option, as I recall. And
I still think-
forestry and natural resources, I think went for 18.
I just don't think that's realistic.
So are we gonna have another debate over whether we should decide on that what phase-in period we want for the official letter, or is this just something one of us is gonna write? Actually, I think that's
Informative.
okay. Maybe I think that's William's decision, actually.
You have any thoughts? I mean, other than that, whoever writes it, you get some prerogative.
And we can also
That's a bad
remain,
idea.
we
Giving
can-
me
we can
prerogative
remain
doesn't
Doesn't mean it's final. You
we
can
can
do a
remain
draft.
agnostic on this, here is a, whatever they think is.
Look, guys, what's the point of writing a letter if we're gonna be agnostic about the only thing we're actually discussing? Right, it's so, we've already, we've already written a letter.
I'll just say this, I think 3 years is. What is that,
Do we know what the other counties did that was successful? Did they fail at 18 months and they had to keep pushing it, or like what's?
Nobody has done 18 months that I know of, I think they.
Don't know that that's true.
Oh,
I think there's some diversity here. I think DC, you've got DC, you've got Alexandria, Montgomery counties is in there too. I think there has been some research about that. I don't think they all took the same amount of time. I could
look into that.
Which one?
Yeah, I would love to see if it was successful at 24 months, or if they're like, nope, it was a horrible idea. It should have been 30. It's like
So-
it's sort of.
If you look at the slides also, there's also the survey results.
Right, which-
from both residents and businesses that will give you kind of a sense of, what people who responded to the survey actually want. Not surprisingly, the businesses
Didn't love it.
would prefer not to have any kind of ban. And if there is going to be a ban, they want it to be phased in as quickly as possible.
They also wanted some grandfathered in, like they could keep old equipment or something like that.
Yeah. But I really do think that if we're going to bother to write a letter, we should take a position. Otherwise, we shouldn't bother writing.
And did we discuss it? That particular element at our last discussion of this topic and come to an agreement for 3 years?
No, we
did
did.
not.
We said we would wait to see what the county would say first. Now,
But we didn't, did we comment on it in the letter?
no, said, we don't know what you're.
Yeah, we could come to consensus.
We couldn't come to
So I
consensus.
don't think we tried that.
yeah, because we were just waiting on more information. Now we have it.
We're
So
not going to get any more information than we have.
So
Do we have any reason not to support 2 years?
Exactly. Or what the other,
I think 3
Natural.
years.
but like, should we urge for?
well, the other groups say 18 and 24, right?
Yeah, there were two other options. I know, forestry and natural resources urged 18. Their argument was that this has already been in place in Alexandria. A lot of these groups do not just work in, these businesses don't just work in Arlington. They are already having to adapt to just these sorts of regulations in neighboring jurisdictions. So if Arlington can decide whether they want to stall on this and have this going on until 2029, or whether we will speed it up. This is not a shock to these businesses. They're already having to deal with adjacent jurisdictions.
Does somebody want to make a motion? Because we can't really talk much more about it.
Sounds like there's loopholes with this grandfather clause.
Well,
It's not just, they were just, they were.
I think I'll do some research, and I'll reach out to William about
I'll make
what the
a motion.
phase-in period was in other jurisdictions.
I'll make a motion. Let's just move this along. I move for 20.
That's like,
It seems reasonable.
Yeah, I'm in favor as well.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay. Okay.
Motion carries, sorry.
No, it's,
Yeah.
I just think we don't have any information.
You
Okay.
gotta make a decision.
Yeah.
Guess I'll work on the letter and say 24 months.
Correct.
The next thing we're supposed to tell you about is your roles, but I'm gonna skip that. And I'm gonna turn it to Daniel to say, thank you, Daniel, so much for serving on the commission. Do you want to say anything?
Just it's been a lot of fun. I've learned a lot, and this is a very like dedicated group of people, like great advocacy for, important issues in this county. Pushing for green space, pushing to make the community have access to green spaces and recreation. So it's been a lot of fun. So
It's been wonderful having you on. We really appreciate all that hard work you did on the master plan.
it's been a lot of fun.
And working with Sarah to get her set up for success.
And why are you leaving again? Okay.
So round of applause for Daniel.
Yes. Okay, now it's my turn to say goodbye. All right, got another 20 minutes. So I'm a Girl Scout leader, so we always do rosebud and thorn, right? So the best part has been working with outstanding citizens, especially Marco. Couldn't do it without you and all of you guys, as well as the amazing staff that we have and the board and their staff, as well as other commissions and, and the county manager. So everybody's been great. The thorn was having to start during the pandemic and then the federal budget cuts. But even with all these challenges, everything has been very respectful and cordial and kept Arlington's interests at heart. The part that was a growing edge that I had written down, I have to change because one of the best things that happened tonight, which is that we got the funding for the invasive plants. So that's no longer a growing edge, but you guys better make sure they follow through.
We take a lot of credit for that because that's something that you pushed hard for.
Well,
persistently.
and Gary was really the wind under the wings for that one. And also the capital funding for the boathouse. So you make sure that gets going too. And you can talk to him about that.
I'd love to see some info.
And also, I don't want to dismiss, I want to raise up that the site plan development procedures were amended and developed and changed so that now we have the native plant listings that are required and we have other things that have shifted. Please keep your eyes on the bird-friendly glass. We've got a lot of new information that's coming out about that. The prices are coming down and so forth. And I really want to thank William for all the fundraising research that was done and to highlight the wonderful fundraising that the staff have done for the field restorations and what's coming for the boathouse, as well as other things. And I hope we find a way to get more private funding coming into Arlington's parks. So it's been a great time. It's been 6 long years But it's time for me to roll off, and I really have enjoyed it and getting to know you, which I don't, I hope that we will continue our friendships. So, thank you. Oh, yeah.
There's two more things. So the last thing, or the second to last thing, August field trip. So during this time of year, we just want to start thinking about potential locations for where you would like to go visit. If there's an initiative or a project or a park, a center, anything that sparks an interest, please let me know via email. I think right now we have 2 dates earmarked, Tuesday, August 18th and Tuesday, August 25th. So if there's any thoughts on that finalizing that date, let me know as well. During the June PRC meeting, we'll revisit this and we'll see where we land in terms of a potential location and date. Typically, these meetings begin at 6 p.m., hour tour, and then afterwards, maybe some fun time with the commission, either at a happy hour or something like that. But otherwise, we'll talk about this some more in June.
You did Gateway last year.
Yes.
What was the prior
So-
2 or 3?
Yes, so other examples, so Gateway Park, which is an existing park that's being, or that was master planned.
I think we did Alcoba Heights the year before.
We've done Alcoba Heights Park, which was a new park at the time.
Jenny Dean.
Jenny Dean Park, which was also a new park at the time. We played pickleball at Walter Reed Center, I remember 1 year. That was probably before you joined.
Long Branch.
Long Branch Nature Center as well. So these are just some ideas of
The pool.
the pool
Bridge, Long Bridge.
You have done the pool.
and the aquatic center 1 year. Yep,
That's when I joined.
yep. So if there's any other ideas of projects or anything you want to visit, let me know, or we can also talk about it in June.
Thank you.
Last one, the last surprise, because the county board had the first surprise for you. Well, we have the second surprise for you. This is a certificate to recognize your work on the commission. William and I had talked about it as well. So I'll just read it off. In recognition and deepest gratitude, this certificate of appreciation is awarded to Jill Barker in recognition of your significant contributions to Arlington County as chair of the Park and Recreation Commission and overall service on the Park and Recreation Commission from June 13th, 2020 to May 31st, 2026.
That's nice. Okay, let's,
Seconded.
okay, we're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
End of an era.
End of an era.
Yes.
So Jill, I still need to go through Upton Park with you at some point.
Absolutely.
Bye, guys.
No, this
See
is, now
everybody.
we can really be friends.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry.
Community
We're not
garden
filling
people.
your head with proper
At certain points,
Park conduct.
talking about enforcement.